Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world. My name is Dr. DAAM. This is a Dr. DAAM Podcast, episode 38, titled The Icks and the Isms of the Derogative Term DEI Hire and What We Hear. So before I start, I wanted to give my heartfelt sympathy for those the thousands and thousands impacted by the California fires. I'm wearing this sweater in honor of California, also of Southern California. I'm a alumni of the USC, University of Southern California, where I got my doctorate in organization change and leadership. A lot of my friends and colleagues live there. I have family members there, which I'm thinking about always. In that region, so you all be safe, evacuate when necessary, and I look forward to seeing Southern California rise again. It's a greater place than it was before. So California will rise again. Southern California will be amazing again. With that said, I always want to talk about society. This is the Society Podcast, or affectionately called the Mom and Pop Podcast. Mom and Pop Podcasts. And I wanted to talk about a term that's very prevalent amongst conservative voices in America. And it's the term DEI Hire. Before I talk about it, I want to contextualize a story. I always like to start with a story because it's very helpful to set the right narrative going forward. When I was a senior captain in the Army, serving at Forces Command in North Carolina, it was then Fort Bragg, now it's Fort Liberty, and Forces Command was the 4-star headquarters that recently moved from Fort Gillem, Georgia, to then Fort Bragg, North Carolina, now Fort Liberty. And I was in the G357, which was the operations and strategy division, essentially, for that organization. Operations, strategy, and training division for that organization. And you hear a lot of things from folks in terms of how they view the world. And at a time when I was at ForceCom, Barack Obama was in office. First African American president, Harvard Law graduate, head of Harvard Law School news release. Sorry. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm drawing a blank right now, but he was basically Harvard Law School Review. Apologies to the Harvard Law guys. So he accomplished a lot. He became the first African American president. But there was always a false and derogative story told about his birth. That he was not born in America, or he was not born in Hawaii. He was born in Africa. There's nothing wrong with being born in Africa. All of us came from Africa 50,000, 100,000 years ago, so there's nothing wrong with being born in Africa. Africa's a great continent. But they always challenged his birth, and it became birtherism. And I used to hear folks talk about the fact that he was not born in this country, X, Y, and Z. And these were some conservative individuals there down in North Carolina in the headquarters. And I had to tell them one time, you do understand when you use birtherist terms, we the black community see it as a racist ideology. It's a new form of racism. How to disqualify the first black president, stating the fact that he's not born in America, he didn't earn his position. And for them, so for some folks, thought it was a joke. Laugh about it. Like, no, we didn't think it was a joke. It was a racist term. It's a racist ideology professed by some. If white supremacists are calling Barack Obama an illegitimate president for not being born in America, and you, a normal person, using the same terms, what does that? There's an equivalence aspect. The fact that you can't call only them racist and not be assumed to be also racist too. So even if not the case, so I had to educate folks in terms of what that term meant. I'm sure they might have went back home and continued to express terms of birtherism and so forth, but I wanted to make sure my position was known because that's who I am. I like to ensure the fact that people are cognizant of the terms they're using, because I will never use such terms. I'm very aware of how I speak, how I engage the world, and also how I think in terms of always being positive about people. And hearing negativity really does not sit well with me, so I want to always have a positive environment around me in terms of being with people and engage with people. And something I always want for our society is a sense of positivity versus negativity. So now we're here in 2025, and the term DEI Hire is thrown around consistently by many in conservative media, many conservative social influencers, and others. But when people say DEI Hire, they're replacing it for a black person, a Hispanic person, a poor white person, an LGBTQ person, a Muslim person, a Jewish person, someone that is not of a stereotypical leader that they view as who should be an authority. That person was given a position rather than earn a position. And when I hear the term, and I would say when many hear the term, especially in the minority community, women, LGBTQ folks, poor people, Jewish people, Muslim people, they hear a term that has a lot of icks and isms behind it. There's racism, there's sexism, there's form of ethnicism. Don't even know this word, but it sounds good. I'll go with it. There's classism. It's very classist. It's homophobic, and it's also anti-Semitic. The word, and it's anti-American. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. The word DEI Hire is very anti-American. We here in America believe in pluralism. The fact that out of many, one. Pluribus Unum, out of many, one. And that is the calling card of what makes us a great country. It's a calling card of what makes us a great society. DEI Hire, the term, essentially is a very divisive term to dismiss people who have earned their position. The perfect example is the fire chief in LA. The woman, yes, she's a gay woman, but she's earned her position. She spent 21 years climbing the ranks, hitting all the necessary levels in terms of requirements to be a fire chief. She earned it, but because of her sexuality, she's being dismissed. She's a white woman also too, and for some reason, because she's a white woman, she's also being dismissed. The same thing is happened with the FEMA director, who's a Caucasian woman, great credentials, but a congressman today called her a DEI hire. The woman likely has more credentials than this congressperson. She has more experience in diversity management than most people who enter the job. especially when you consider she was the emergency management person for a city like New York City, which is 8.5 million people. So, and then we have folks like Mayor Karen Bass, who was elected to her position, but she's called a DEI hire. How is a person who's been elected, duly elected by the people of Los Angeles, called a DEI hire? She was elected. She earned her position. She was not appointed, but she earned her position. Of note, this is not a conversation about mistakes made in terms of the LA fires or what can be improved, because that's a separate conversation. I think there's a lot can be improved, lessons learned, because mistakes were made, coordination mistakes, but I don't want to focus too much on that. That's going to be handled by the people of California and the government, the elected officials of California. But I've noticed that fact that Governor Newsom, who is a Caucasian male, is not called a DEI hire. And that's what is interesting about this whole process. I started saying the fact that DEI hire is classist, because you will never see that term applied to a poor white person. I mean, to a rich white person, a rich white male, or a rich white person, but it will be applied to a poor white person. There's for some reason that term is now a catch-all for those who don't have wealth and those who don't have status and standing, those who have climbed their way up. America is a country that's about opportunity and rising, about earning your way to the top. When did it become a negative to earn your way to the top? Because that's what people are now hearing. You can have all the credentials in the world. You can have all the experience in the world. And you're in a leadership position, something happens, and you'll be called a DEI hire. Even though you earn that position. If you stack your resume versus somebody else's resume, or a group of people's resume, and you have XXXX above them, you will still be called a DEI hire. Does that make any sense in a society that's about meritocracy, about the little man becoming, little man, little woman rising to the top, getting good grades, working your way through school, working your way through work, and becoming a leader in industry, or a leader in the military, or whatever, leader in government? How do we become this society that's dismissive of people's accomplishments, that they didn't earn their position? Many people have earned their position by the virtue of the fact that they worked hard. Some folks, get to a position in 20 years. Other folks get to the position in 40 years. Do we discount the fact that those who got it there faster didn't earn it? So why do we discount the fact those who took longer to get to that position also earned their right to be in that position? Why are these icks and isms that is now the catch-all for DEI hire part of our lexicon? Why do we allow folks to corrupt our society, that a society that measures how good of a contributor you are based on how you help people, how you uplift people, how you work on behalf of your fellow man, and how much hard work you do? When did hard work become a derogative term on the DEI or DEI hire? Hard work is something that we treasure here in America. Why do we not treasure those folks, those many folks, men, women, who put in the time and effort, years upon years, decades upon decades, to make it in this great land of ours. Why do we penalize folks by calling them DEI hires? Because they don't look like you, they don't act like you, but they're from a different background, and they've accomplished a lot. Again, our motto in America, Pluribus Unum, out of many one. We are a nation of different people with different backgrounds. One of my first podcasts talked about how we view leadership. Many people have this concept of leader as this one particular person, or this one type of person, or they focus on the fact that leadership must have this one particular style. That is not how the world works. Leadership is a spectrum. Hopefully, it's also on the positive side of the spectrum. Leaders run the gamut, from short to tall, big to fat, anything, thin, male, female, gay, straight, Jew, Muslim, Christian. Leaders run the gamut. They're not based on a stereotype. They should not be based on a stereotype. And that's what DEI hire, that term does. It makes the fact that you must fit a stereotype the actual construct of the world. But if you don't meet that stereotype, you're a DEI hire. I've said to folks, and I'll say it on this podcast, if somebody ever comes up to me and call me a DEI hire, I'd like to play rock, paper, resume. Because I know I'll win that rock, paper, resume. Because I fundamentally believe in hard work to get to where you go. This is what I teach my kids. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how talented you are. If you don't work hard, nothing really matters. Because you didn't put in the effort. You skated on your talent. And at some point in time, when you skate on your talent, you will miss the fact that you didn't learn the right skills, the right level. You didn't get the right level of acumen to go to a different and more divergent position, or a different and more divergent environment, because you skated. You didn't work really hard. And that's a great thing about non-talented and talented people. They know the fact that working hard is a true elixir of success. So when someone calls a duly elected official a DEI hire, a person who's made it up through the ranks a DEI hire, it's very offensive. It's a derogative term. It's a racist, it's a sexist, it's a classist, anti-Muslim, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and ultimately an anti-American word. I don't know how to get that across to folks who use that so blatantly, so fluidly. Because it makes me question all the great things we express as a country. Did we just create a narrative that was false? The fact that working hard was not the key to success? And if you worked hard and got there, you'd just be considered a person who was selected or appointed? And people will dismiss you? And it makes you wonder, those people who use the term DEI hire, how they've disenfranchised folks. It's one of those things you realize that you've got to be very cognizant of your words. You've got to be careful. You got to be empathetic. You got to understand the fact that people have worked hard to get where they got. And that's what it makes a great society. So let's eliminate the term DEI hire from my lexicon, and just say the fact that you're hard work and you earn your position. You've made a difference. My name is Dr. DAAM. This is Dr. DAAM Podcast. Thank you for listening to me. Please like and subscribe to my podcast. Until the next episode, be safe.